Early in 2014, Major League Baseball had an idea, determining once and for all who the face of baseball was out of current players from that time. They did so by having every team's fans pick one player and placing them in a bracket where the ultimate winner would then be, in theory, the winner of baseball's ultimate popularity contest. You had plenty of the usual suspects: Derek Jeter, Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, David Ortiz, Jose Altuve, Clayton Kershaw, Miguel Cabrera, etc. The Oakland A's player on here was Eric Sogard, a below-average hitting second baseman with a career high of 2 home runs. From the outside looking in, no one really understood how he even got into this popularity contest, but eventually, the world was determined to help him win it. Now, Sogard being here at all doesn't really make a lick of sense. The A's were a really good team at this time. They had a flashy outfielder who just won a home run derby and was about to win a second in a row. They had Josh Donaldson coming off his breakout MVP candidate caliber season. Eric Sogard was by no means the face of the A's. Their fan base voted him into that role regardless. Sogard's career resume is very important here, because this is where we're gonna most focus on it. I want you to understand who Eric Sogard was at the time he had to compete for popularity with some of the biggest names in baseball, in that moment and in the future. Sogard was a 27-year-old with 6 career home runs. His career offensive value to that point was 22% below average. He was only marginally better than an interchangeable faceless replacement level player for much of his career. But most importantly, he looked like a nerd. I guess I'm one to talk, but that was Sogard's entire identity to this point. I at least make Goodfellas references in YouTube videos once in a while.
You know why? It was out of respect.
Sogard's official nickname was Nerd Power, and you would only know that if you're like a 1% ball knower, because no one really knew who Eric Sogard was. Only die-hard A's fans knew Eric Sogard as of early 2014. Even casual A's fans, much less the average baseball fan, had zero exposure whatsoever to Mr. Nerd Power. Someone you've probably had a little more exposure to was his first matchup on this bracket.
Rizzo, oh my! Did he catch it? He did!
Anthony Rizzo is the face of a Chicago Cubs team transitioning back into greatness. At this moment, he's kinda like Sogard, in that he's only played 1 full season, but most people seem to understand that Rizzo is going to be very good. And that expectation turns out to be correct. Rizzo parlays being the young face of a Cubs rebuild into being an all-star each of the next 3 seasons as their first baseman. 3 fantastic seasons, easily the prime of his career here, where he peaks at being over 50% above average with the bat. The end of that 3-season run concludes with him catching the final out of the 2016 World Series, the first championship the Cubs had in 108 years. Rizzo goes down in history as a Cubs fan favorite, the second ever Hot Ones guest, and a really good player. One I'm allowing myself to say had a better career than Eric Sogard. But that does not matter here, because Eric Sogard was deemed the more popular player. 57% of the vote for Sogard, 43% for Rizzo. Okay, sure. Eric Sogard can move out of round 1 when his opponent is a young player on a losing team who hasn't quite had their best seasons yet. Rizzo is not the face of baseball at this time, nor is he close to it. Neither is Eric Sogard, but still, who is a little closer to that status is Sogard's opponent in round 2.
Troy drives one high and deep left field. Take a good look. You won't see it for long. Tulowitzki, can he throw him out? Oh yeah, no problem. You kidding me?
Troy Tulowitzki, the shortstop for the Colorado Rockies, is a superstar. A 3-time All-Star, Gold Glove winning, power-hitting shortstop is usually gonna be a well-liked player. Tulowitzki, or rather, Tulo, that's what everyone calls him, man does it roll off the tongue super well, is a player everyone knows is one of the best in the league. You can more than likely make the argument he's the best shortstop in baseball, something that, if my memory of living through his entire career serves, I believe was the prevailing opinion by that time. And yet, everyone also kinda knows he's only scratched the surface, which only adds to his intrigue.
I think most of the fans like to hear some random things, so I've played everything from Miley Cyrus to Justin Bieber. Just keep it loose, and it is, somewhat of the music that I like.
Tulo has 3 top 10 MVP finishes, even for being a guy who has the injury-prone label. In 2014, he has the best run of his whole career, batting .340 for a little over half a season's worth of games, OPSing over 1,000, which is just insane for a shortstop at this time. We're in kind of a dead ball era here. This is no means the steroid era. Shortstops are not doing this around baseball. He's clocking in at 70% above league average when 2014 is all said and done. Just a brief reminder of the kind of hitter Sogard's opponent is here. The problem for Tulo is that this was the end of his dominance. He went on the injured list in mid-July of that season and had season-ending surgery in August. Tulo was never the same, and he was done playing just 5 years later. Today, and especially in 2014, while he was still a superstar, it should not be a question of who is more qualified to be the face of baseball between Tulo and Eric Sogard. It's Tulo, right? Right? Well, it's time to rip up all forms of logic and discard them forever. This is where this bracket gets completely and irreversibly destroyed. The fabric of the baseball popularity contest going down along with it. Right after a quick word from our sponsor. This video is brought to you by Arena Club. Arena Club is revolutionizing the trading card game. Open digital packs starting at just $25, but with real graded cards inside, including grails worth 20 times plus the pack price. From there, you can buy, sell, trade, or retrieve a physical card. Every slab pack shows you exactly what's inside and the pull rates of each card before you buy. After you open, Arena Club will instantly offer you cash for your card based on its fair market value. You know what's cool? This is for sports cards and for Pokemon cards. I'll be honest with you, I don't know too much about Pokemon. I saw a card ripped up on the streets of Long Island one time, but if I was to get into getting Pokemon cards, Arena Club is where I would start. And speaking of Arena Club pulls, you want to see my trip down memory lane after getting a Jackson Holiday card? You know what that reminds me of? Is, they did Baby's first clinch miss that year for him when they made the playoffs, because he wasn't old enough to drink the champagne when they made the playoffs. They got him, like, baby bottles and all that. Your turn to rip. To get 20% off your first slab pack or card, just go to arenaclub.com/SRS and use code SRS. Thank you, Arena Club! Eric Sogard got more than double the support in this vote that Troy Tulowitzki did. 69% of the vote went Sogard's way, which is just preposterous. Nerd power was taking over. It was a force of nature you could not contain. Based on basically any rational thought you could put together, Sogard should not have stood a chance against Tulo. He's a player most of the baseball world does not know even exists, against the best shortstop in the game with an easy-to-remember nickname and 3 All-Star games to their name and counting. But Sogard has now advanced to the 3rd round of the bracket. Miguel Cabrera was out by this point. Bryce Harper had just been knocked out. David Ortiz was just eliminated. Freddie Freeman and Jose Altuve gone too. All of those players are still household names over a decade later. Eric Sogard has just outlasted all of them in a literal popularity contest. But he's not done yet. His next opponent, though, is his most challenging yet.
We're gonna have a problem here.
Posey, deep left field, that is way back, and a grand slam for Buster Posey. And Buster Posey delivers on the expectation.
Buster Posey of the San Francisco Giants is just over a year removed from having the best season by a catcher ever. Well, at least according to Fangraphs. I said Tulo had 3 top 10 MVP finishes. Posey won the damn thing 2 seasons ago. If there was any doubt lingering for if Tulo was MLB's best shortstop, there was no doubt you can find on who the best catcher in baseball was at this time. It was Buster Posey, who was doing it as the best player on a team that won 2 World Series titles in the last 4 years. And, oh by the way, winds up doing it again in that 2014 season. Posey is a San Francisco Giants lifer who never quite leaves his title of being their most noteworthy figure, to the point where about 3 years after he unexpectedly retires, he stuns the world by becoming their president of baseball operations. Even as he wears a suit to his job, Buster Posey may still very well be the face of the Giants. That's the kind of aura we're dealing with. He's also the first, and there's a strong chance that the only, future Hall of Famer Eric Sogard will have to deal with here. What also should theoretically plummet Sogard's chances right here, right now, is that San Francisco and Oakland technically share the same broad market as the 2 Bay Area teams. And the Giants are far and away the big brother here at this moment in the public consciousness. 2 titles in 4 years will do that after all, and why this is relevant is that the face of this team should obviously be a bigger candidate for the face of the league than the little brother team. The Yankees' biggest star is usually a bigger draw than the Mets. The Lakers is usually bigger than the Clippers, and so on and so forth. Multi-team markets tend to be very skewed in favor of the big brother team when it comes to a literal popularity contest. And on top of that, Posey is the much more qualified player on the field. But Sogard won again. 55% to 45%. Unreal. With this victory over Posey, Sogard is now in the final 4 candidates for the face of MLB. And those who follow March Madness know that this is generally the point where your magic, improbable Cinderella run ends. And they just tend to leave it at you made the final 4 with no other context for what happens next. Unless you win the whole damn thing, of course, but that's probably not going to happen. Are you crazy? And this is coming from a guy whose plucky South Florida alma mater went to the Final 4 and didn't advance because of, like, the most heartbreaking sports loss of my life, possibly. You don't really remember getting knocked out, though, from this point on. You're in the territory where getting this far at all is the prize. So, who does Sogard have to take down now?
Swing and a drive, and it is out of here! Jose Bautista has tied it up in the ninth.
You thought Tulo was a cool nickname? Jose Bautista of the Toronto Blue Jays is known around the world as Joey Bats. That's aura right there. Bautista is one of the most feared sluggers in baseball. He led MLB in homers in 2010 and 2011, and since his breakout 54 home run year in 2010, he has averaged over 47 home runs per full season pace. That is legendary stuff. He's in the midst of a streak of 6 straight All-Star games, and in that final season of the 6, he has the most iconic moment of any player we will break down today. 2015 ALDS, winner-take-all game, 7th inning, season on the line. You've probably seen it before. He eventually got clocked by a guy 13 years his junior in retaliation for this, and this home run has gone down so iconically in history that this photo does not outweigh this photo in his legacy. As far as what I'm going to emphasize for the umpteenth time, a literal popularity contest, a 2 home runs in a season second baseman should not stand Alderán's chance against the Death Star against the guy with the second most home runs of anyone over the last 4 years. This should be the end of the line, especially when Bautista is literally campaigning for himself on Twitter to assemble all the help he can get to finally end Nerd Power's Cinderella ride. This has to be where it stops, right? Well, to steal a word from Sogard himself describing this whole situation, Madness. Do you understand what is happening here? Eric Sogard is systematically winning popularity contests against some of the most popular players in baseball, just because people think it would be funny if he was crowned the face of baseball. People, ironically and somewhat in bad faith, if you haven't figured that out, want this to be the face of baseball, just because they think it's funny that a guy with glasses can be the face of baseball. Sure, I selfishly love that this ever happened, but I also am getting big-time vote for the worst American Idol flashbacks. We, the baseball community, have thrown all reason out of a 200-story window. Eric Sogard is by far the least accomplished and least culturally significant player on this bracket. This was true in 2014 and in the years that followed. And yet, we are going to declare Eric Sogard the face of baseball. Only one man remains in his way. The man holding up the shield for whatever integrity this contest has left.
The 2-1. And Wright lines it into the right field corner. The U.S. wins it! David Wright with a walk-off knock!
David Wright, Captain America, was the most important New York Met of the first quarter of the 21st century. A 7-time All-Star with the most hits and the most RBI in Mets history, all before even coming head-to-head with Eric Sogard for the title of Face of Baseball. Just look at how the Mets faithful treated him in 2013 when the Home Run Derby was at Citi Field.
And David Wright. That smile is effervescent, isn't it?
And then the All-Star Game also being in front of his home fans too.
From your New York Mets, David Wright.
David Wright is a player very few people dislike. You're going to be hard-pressed to find very many avid David Wright haters, because he was both the kind of player and person it's difficult to root against. I know plenty of NL East Division rival fans who are still staunch David Wright respecters. And honestly, that's the toughest thing working against Sogard this time. Now that push is really coming to shove, the world has to decide if little old Eric Sogard can be the face of baseball. It'd be a lot easier to make that call if it was against someone the public would have more of a desire to spite. All cards on the table here. You guys probably know me well enough by now to know I am a lifelong Mets fan. David Wright means more to me than I can possibly try to put into words, and this is coming from someone who realized at the very end of his career that I definitely took him for granted. When his career ended in 2018 due to spinal stenosis, and that effectively killed his destiny of the Hall of Fame, only coming back for a goodbye cameo that last weekend of the season to play in front of Mets fans one last time and having an OPS plus that season of 5, it still felt right. It was one of the most beautiful things I have ever seen happen in baseball, and it happened for a guy Mets fans will jump at any opportunity to celebrate. I cannot and will not even pretend I wanted Eric Sogard to win as this was happening. But I was not getting my wish through most of the final day's voting. Sogard held a slim lead, approximately 51% to 49%. This was happening. That lead only grew over the next few hours, a great sign as Wright's predominantly East Coast fan base was getting closer to bedtime, whereas Sogard's West Coast base was going to have extra time to build its lead. According to data corroborated by CBS News, Sogard built his lead to roughly 53% an hour later, 3 hours after that climbing past 55%. The Sogard supporters believed there could not be enough David Wright supporters awake to undo this. We were living in the world where Eric Sogard was about to be the face of baseball. When the world woke up tomorrow, Eric Sogard was gonna be the face of baseball. Only, it wasn't to be. MLB was immediately, and I mean immediately, accused of rigging this event to ensure Eric Sogard could not be crowned the face of baseball. And maybe they did. I'll admit, it does seem unlikely for Wright to have made up all that ground totally naturally at those hours, assuming this data is correct. If it's not, well, I can't pretend I would have rooted against David Wright here. I'll be perfectly transparent with that. Eric Sogard's magical ride ended right there at the last second, the same way it can and does all the time in sports' other magical rides. There's no glorious send-off, and I think for the best in this case, very little what could have been. We smiled that it happened. We smile that Eric Sogard, of all people, was almost crowned the face of baseball. You may have noticed that for each player Sogard was matched up with on this bracket, I also gave a glimpse into the future beyond just their standing in 2014, but I didn't do the same for him. That was on purpose. I wanted to save his postscript for the end. He played just 2 more seasons for the A's, hitting 2 home runs over those 2 seasons, and grading out as a well below average hitter and slightly above replacement level player. He saw the most success in his career as a part-time player for the Milwaukee Brewers, Toronto Blue Jays, and Tampa Bay Rays in the tail end of the decade. His final MLB season was in 2021, capping off an 11-season career. He most recently reappeared as the best player Team Czech Republic had to offer at the 2023 World Baseball Classic. Those who recognized him most likely thought back to nerd power. Glad to see him back in a baseball uniform. Look, Eric Sogard had no business being anywhere near the discussion for the face of baseball. He became part of a movement way bigger than himself, and he was latched onto by the baseball community because of that. Maybe it was a statement against the arbitrary nature of these popularity contests as a whole. Hell, Derek Jeter got bounced in the 3rd round, and to this day, he's probably a top 5 or 10 face of baseball still, after not playing since 2014. On or off the field, Sogard was never anything close to the biggest star in baseball, and my guess is he was totally comfortable with that. Without this competition, even the average die-hard baseball fan might never have remembered his name or his career. But that's the thing about baseball. It always finds some way to make everyone interesting. Even its most unexpected players, in their most unexpected moments. It may be the most human and romantic thing about baseball as a whole. And maybe, in that way, Eric Sogard is the face of baseball.